One could easily make the argument that this is the most important magical book in all of history. The Key of Solomon, at first read, is a very dense magical grimoire. It's very confusing, it's very wordy, there are a lot of details, and what's even more confusing is most of the details are laid out in steps that you wouldn't naturally follow. And I recognize that within the very simple to complex instructions within the Key of Solomon, there are a lot of magical tricks that can be applied to many, many, many other practices if you just adjust them a little bit. So it's a very strict and rigorous magical system, but it's also very loose in that it allows you to be creative with it, because there's so much information that you can take from it and be creative in your own way with its knowledge. In that way, the Key of Solomon is not only a classic, but timeless, because it's able to be applied to life and magical practice today. So what exactly is the Key of Solomon, and what does it have to offer to magical practitioners? The Key of Solomon is a system of personal development. It relies heavily on purification, connecting to one's higher self, and preparation for the complex rites that are within the book. It offers lengthy preparations to purify and prepare oneself for the magic that is going to be taking place if you follow the system. So the Key of Solomon describes in detail how to prepare your personal temple for magical working, all of the tools that you'll need to work with the Key of Solomon. It describes detailed pentacles and their construction and the colors, parchment, and sacred metals that can be used to make those pentacles. The preparation and purification of oneself so that you can be strong enough to complete these lengthy and intense rituals where powerful spirits will be summoned. And all of it culminates to crafting a grand circle, gathering all of your regalia and tools, collecting all of your pentacles that are used for specific reasons, and are organized by a planetary system. And then finally, after many months of preparation, if you follow the instructions, you are said to be able to conjure any of the powerful spirits from any of the directions under any planetary ruler, and conjure them and command them and get effective results from them. So in many ways, the Key of Solomon is similar to many other important magical grimoires. I have two examples here. The Book of Abramelin, another famous system of purification, preparation, and the summoning and commanding of powerful spirits, also known as demons or unredeemed spirits in the system of the Abramelin. This book offers 18 months of preparation before you can complete the magic and gain knowledge and conversation with one's holy guardian angel, which is often seen by magicians as your higher self, your ultimate connection to God. The Lesser Key of Solomon, which part of this book is the very popular Goetia by Mathers and Crowley, this does not have Mathers and Crowley's imprint on it so much as this brilliant guy, Joseph Peterson. He also has a version of the Greater Key of Solomon that I'm talking about in this video on the website Sacred Texts, where he's the editor. And what he's been doing recently is taking these books that were worked on by Mathers, Crowley, and other famous occultists, and often from fragmented documents and from unreputable sources, and he is making them into concise guides where all of the details are there, all of the history is there, and there's less mistakes in the work. And then of course here I have the Mathers version of the Key of Solomon. This is a very well-illustrated book, but the information in it is not the most reliable, and it doesn't have a lot of the footnotes that are important to understanding where the material came from and what it actually means. Where if you go on sacredtext.com, you'll be able to read the same book but with notations, with modern scholarship and more information, more manuscripts. But the reason I'm showing you these 3 books, and there's many more that fit into the genre of these books, is all of them on the surface seem to be about commanding demons and forcing demons to do your will, or in other words, unredeemed spirits, or just powerful spirits, or historic spirits. Either way, you're conjuring these powerful spirits and making them complete your will, assigning them tasks, getting familiars from them, getting secret knowledge from them. And all of that is very beneficial, but what I'd like to point out, and what links all of these together, even though the names of the spirits may be different, even though the seals of the spirits may be different, even though the function or interpretation of the spirits and the method of conjuring them is different in all of them, the main thing is that when you work these systems, every single time, even if not consciously, you're working yourself up, you're preparing yourself up to reach that highest source. And it's seen as the holy guardian angel, it's seen as your higher self, it's seen as your inner genius. But all of these systems are working to get you to that place, to get yourself into the place of the magician, to work yourself up to that place so strongly that you're able to conjure these primordial spirits, and in exchange cause the entire universe to change according to your will. So that is the preliminary benefit of working these Goetia systems. And it's for this reason that I think these books are so much more important than just getting your will and making things happen and making change happen. They're important because they help the magician develop his or her own soul. So let's talk a bit about the history of the Key of Solomon. It was compiled in the 1500s based on several different manuscripts, compiled into one because all of them were very similar, and it was made to be a sort of manual to show this is what magicians do. And we know now that there were a lot of people, particularly Catholic clergy and even folk magicians, who practiced this magic as well. So even though it was compiled in the 1500s, the magic that's within the pages of the Greater Key of Solomon is far older. The basics of the system come from ancient Greece and ancient Rome. So they descend to us from antiquity into books that are filtered through the different eras that they were transcribed in. So even though the system within the Key of Solomon seems very Abrahamic, and all of the prayers and conjurations are based on the Bible and often taken from the Bible, and the consecrations are often psalms, many people have been able to take the basic framework and translate it into a more Neoplatonist way of thinking. This is really the key behind the grimoire tradition, is recognizing that these systems and these books are describing magic that comes from before time was recorded, when humans believed that there were spirits out there, believing that there are higher powers up there somewhere, and wanting to connect with those higher powers. This does not come from the Bible. This comes from time immemorial. And it's interesting to think of the idea that connecting to the Abrahamic God, way up here, it's interesting to think of connecting to that source of God as symbolizing the highest God, the source of all things, that is neither male nor female, that humans often can only envision as just a ball of light, or as nothing at all, because in a way it's unknowable. This is really the key to the idea of the holy guardian angel that's described within the Abramelin, and it's the key to understanding how these operations of magic and conjuration work, because you're not working through this one idea of deity. You're not working through your mundane idea of yourself. You're working through the idea that when you step foot in that circle, in the center of that circle, that you can have all the power of God on your side. I refer to this in my book Presidium as the magical ego, and there are several different names for it: the holy guardian angel, the higher self, and in a lot of the Christian grimoires, just having God on your side and speaking the words of God and feeling God all around you. But at the same time, when you're doing that and you're feeling God all around you, you're, by your very nature, feeling God within you. This is the preliminary aspect of every one of these grimoires, is reaching that highest point. So the first thing in the Key of Solomon and making it workable is preparation and purification. So from my extensive studying of many different grimoires, I have this interesting little list here where I want to link the process of all of these different grimoires and kind of link them back to the Key of Solomon. Not in a way that says that the Key of Solomon is the source of all of these, but since this is a video about the Key of Solomon, I want to show how the whole grimoire tradition can effectively plug into this book. And in future videos on different grimoires, I'll do the same thing and I'll link it back to this system. And if there's a grimoire, a historic grimoire, or a new grimoire that doesn't, in a way, link back to this system, then I probably won't do that. But because so many different classical books that you'll hear about when studying magic link to the Key of Solomon in so many different ways, it's important to realize why that is, and it's because of what I'm saying, the link to that higher aspect. The Key of Solomon steps are boiled down if you read through the whole thing and kind of simplify everything that happens in the book. Preparation, purification, temple formation, worship, conjuration, and the license to depart. Now I'll read the Abramelin steps, basically boiled down if you read through the whole thing and get rid of all the frivolous details. Preparation, purification, worship, conjuration, and license to depart. And in the preparation there is the creation of the temple. So it's in there, but it's just in a different part. The Goetia found within the Lesser Key of Solomon, the steps to that operation are preparation, purification, temple formation, worship, conjuration, and license to depart. Similarly, in my own methods of working, the steps are preparation, temple formation, worship, conjuration, license to depart. In the Key of Solomon, the preparation consists of preparing all of the tools that you will need, gathering all the materials, all the robes, all the incense, creating a wand, creating magical weapons, forming a circle on the ground, creating all of the pentacles with the symbols of the spirits that you'd like to call, and the pentacles that rule over those spirits of that planet, and then also the pentacle of King Solomon himself, which is highest of all in that hierarchy. That's the word I was looking for. And during each one of these tools' creation, you're supposed to follow specific steps, and then you're supposed to consecrate it in a specific way, which often involves the reading of Psalms. And there's so much reading. I think the first time I created the, this is kind of a funny story. The first time I created pentacles from the Key of Solomon in the traditional way within a circle, which actually I could show you the circle right now. Consecrating everything properly with the proper prayers and incense and reading out all the Psalms. It probably took me like the better part of a magical hour. By the time I was done, pretty much everything in the room I was working in and my robe and my hair, everything was just covered in the smell of frankincense. Just smoke everywhere, because you're supposed to read this huge list of Psalms while running the pentacle over the incense, and the book describes how to do that. And by the time you're done reading all the Psalms, you have so much incense burnt and you just have to keep going. And funny enough, not very old-fashioned, but funny enough, we were reading the prayers off of a phone, just on like the website for Psalms, and every single time we had to press the back button and scroll through the list and find the psalm, and then we had to go up, and then we had to go down, and then we have to go up, and we have to go down. By the time we were done consecrating the pentacles, I believe they were thoroughly consecrated, about as consecrated as they could get. So this is one of the first more daunting aspects of the Key of Solomon, is the lengthy preparations and the rules and the time it takes to create each thing. But the people who are more familiar with magic and the energies behind magic will realize that every single time you put this hard work, and it takes so long, and you're putting so much into it, and you're burning so much incense, and you're buying these expensive items, and you're just creating it into like a piece of art, each time you do that, you're putting so much of your own personal energy into this item. And at the same time, because your mind is attuned to that highest source of God, you're putting that energy from the highest source of God into the item too. So it's like a conglomeration of those two energies, your personal energy as a human, as a magical person, and the energy of God. When you combine those two, the same energy they form is the same energy as your holy guardian angel. So every single object that you create when practicing these forms of magic is an item imbued with the spirit of your holy guardian angel, and during every one of those acts, it is an invocation of your holy guardian angel or your higher self. So this is why the preparations and the rules, to as much of a degree as you can get to exacting them, are so important, because there's so much energy and power in them. And in the process of just doing things like that, just doing things that are so demanding, and the discipline that that offers to you. And for this simple reason alone, just creating the pentacles and the tools can help someone develop their own magical mind frame, their own spiritual understanding to such a high degree. And it's really a beautiful thing. It would be a mistake to think that one can just buy a wand and say a few words over it and think that it's done. You really have to put a lot into it, and if it's not by following the rules, it's by devoting yourself to that magical object. The second step to the Key of Solomon is the cleanliness and the purification. And the Key of Solomon outlines ways to fast and bathe oneself with prayers and holy water, and purify salt and water, and purify every one of the tools, so that everything that goes into that magic circle is pure. And by doing these lengthy purifications, it's not so much about putting your own energy into anything, any physical object, or into a physical space, but it's more attuning your mind to a very clean aspect of yourself. It's not so much getting into contact with the holy guardian angel, with your higher self. It's more preparing yourself to get into contact with them. And similarly in the Key of Solomon, like the Abramelin, there is a lengthy period of purification. And in the Abramelin, differently from the Key of Solomon, it ends with you basically begging and humbling yourself to such a low degree that you dump ashes on your head and you pray for sunrise to sunset. And one aspect of the brilliant movie A Dark Song, one thing that they got right was her just urinating on the floor and just like basically collapsing. You just beg from sunrise to sunset, and you're most likely going to pee on the floor, and you're not allowed to have a break, and you have dust and ashes from the magical censer on your head and on your body, and it's just supposed to be this miserable, humiliating time. And another thing, you're supposed to wear a sack as your clothes, just a sack draped over your body, with head and arms cut out. The Key of Solomon is not that extreme, but the whole idea is that you humble yourself so much, and you say, it's my goal that I'm going to become a pure person. a clean person, someone in a good frame of mind. And this is just to prepare oneself to really, really, really get in touch with the holy guardian angel. I say somewhere in my grimoire that we're always going to be under the wings of our holy guardian angel, underneath the shadow of the wings of our holy guardian angel. And part of that is important because, like the phoenix rising from the ashes, you have to burn yourself, you have to destroy yourself to be able to be reborn anew. The next step in the Key of Solomon is the formation of the temple, and the circle is an extension of the temple. It brings the four-dimensional temple into the plane of the entire universe. And because of that circle, the operation becomes something way more than just working in a room. You're working over the entire universe. Many people say that the magic circle is the microcosm and the macrocosm symbolized in a union. So this is what's said after the first conjuration to the demons. If they then immediately appear, it is well. If not, let the master uncover the consecrated pentacles which he should have made to constrain and command the spirits, and which he should wear fastened round his neck, holding the medals or pentacles in his left hand, and the consecrated knife in his right. And encouraging his companions, he shall say with a loud voice, Here be the symbols of secret things, the standards, the ensigns, and the banners, of God the Conqueror, and the arms of the Almighty One, to compel the aerial potencies. I command ye absolutely by their power and virtue, that ye come near unto us into our presence, from whatsoever part of the world ye may be in, and that ye delay not to obey us in all things wherein we shall command ye, by the virtue of God the Almighty One. So, again, it's another conjuration. You're repeating the same process, but most people don't really pay attention to the details before. It says the master shall uncover the pentacles, make sure that he's wearing all of the appropriate garments and pentacles, and he shall encourage his companions. This is another form of strengthening the temple or forming the temple. If the process still doesn't work, there's a second try, a third try, a fourth try, and a fifth try. And it goes to that extent. And each time, in very subtle ways, you're meant to go through the same process that I talk about, that all of these grimoires follow, the same steps: preparation, purification, formation of the temple, worship, conjuration, and the license to depart. Every one of these steps, as they get harsher and harsher and command the spirits with more strength and ferocity, they follow the same basic steps until the work of magic is completed. So let's get back to that third step, the formation of the temple. There are detailed circles available within the Greater and the Lesser Key of Solomon. And something interesting about the Lesser Key of Solomon, or the Goetia within the Lesser Key of Solomon, that circle has a list of names of every angel and every system within old-fashioned astrology. And basically what the entire circle is inscribed around with is a list of every single thing within the universe and all of its rulers. And that just goes to show you that these super old books, we can kind of like, it's very easy nowadays to ignore the psychological or mundane interpretations of these very old magical things. It's very easy to ignore them today. But it just goes to prove that people have always viewed the magic circle that the magician stands within as the microcosm and the macrocosm. It's just further proof. When the temple is formed, the circle is drawn, the altar is set up, the tools are gathered, and the disciples and the master of the circle all enter into the temple. They all are properly prepared with the purifications, and they are ready to complete that magic. Symbolically, through all of the preparation, they'd be fully ready to connect with their holy guardian angel. But that part doesn't exactly happen yet. The preparation prepares the magician for the holy guardian angel. All of the fasting, all of the baths, all of the purification, all of the daily prayers, and putting on those clean, fresh garments. All of those prepare the magician to connect with the holy guardian angel. But in the ritual, it's known that until the magician stands within the very center of the circle, they are not fully connected with it, with the holy guardian angel, with the higher self, because it's not until that magician calls that being down into the circle is the connection complete. The Key of Solomon calls for the censers to be lit, for the fire to be lit, all of it to be exorcised. So during this whole thing, smoke is pouring out from 4 censers on the cardinal points of the circle, and the room will quickly begin to fill with smoke. This is all meant to fill that space so fully, full to the brim with the energies of God and with the energies of the holy guardian angel, to elevate that space so that it is able to reach that height of our connection to God. And once all of the magicians within the circle connect to that higher source, then the most powerful of spirits can be controlled. If you think about it, why should a magician be able to control these powerful spirits just because they followed rules? It's not because you followed the rules and you did it rightly and you get yourself into this state of mind where you are gullible enough to believe that you can conjure these powerful spirits. It's because the energy that you've infused within your very soul, within that very room, allows you to be so heightened up that you can reach that highest source of God. And I call that the impregnation of the temple, just because it's impregnating the temple with the energies that you need, and as such, impregnating your soul with the energies that you need, reaching this very holy place where you're able to have so much power. The magical ego, the higher self, the holy guardian angel. The Key of Solomon goes slowly from contacting the holy guardian angel, slowly towards just focusing more and more on the spirits and commanding the spirits. And then even at the end, if the spirits still don't show up, it focuses on cursing the spirits and basically damning them to burn in hell in fire and brimstone because they wouldn't listen to you. And there's a very important reason for this focus, because just like the Abramelin, and just like the Goetia, the focus begins up here and it always ends down here. People think of that as black magic, as doing all this preparation just so you can work with these dirty, unclean, evil spirits that are just going to cause you harm or mischief. It's very different from that. You begin by invoking your higher self. In the traditional grimoires, it's by praying to God and his angels, but the occultist will know what this really means. It's really connecting to that highest source of God, that Kether on the Tree of Life, and connecting to all of the holy and powerful spirits along that Tree of Life that connect Kether to Malkuth. It's about uniting yourself with those forces. If we think of it, the powerful spirits that you command in these grimoire systems can be seen as spirits of the earth. They can be seen as spirits of the planets. They can be thought of as spirits of hell. Either way, they're spirits at this very bottom of the Tree of Life. It's my belief that the symbolism within the Bible, that the fallen angels were kicked out of heaven down to earth into the depths of hell. I believe that that's just symbolic in my occult mind for spirits who were created by the highest source of God, the source, and sent down to earth. Within earth is traditionally the idea of hell. So these spirits are simply spirits of the earth. And I'm not the only one that thinks this. There are many people who agree with this. There are many people who think, maybe not. Maybe demons are just like dirty amalgamations of energies. But I don't believe that the spirits classically written of fit into this description. And many of the demons that you can read about in the Goetias, the various Goetias, and within the Abramelin, are known to be the names passed down from old gods, changed by the Catholic Church into demons or lesser spirits. And in some interpretations of the word demon, it can mean lesser god. So in my opinion, the spirits that these grimoires seek to manifest are simply spirits of the earth. They can be harsh, they can be vicious, they can be saintly and pure, but they're just spirits of our earthly realm. So through this whole ritual, we are seeking to climb up the tree of life, up to that source, taking that energy and bringing it down here and using it to work on the spirits of our earthly sphere, and thus creating change within our earthly sphere. We have to climb to the top to command the bottom. And that is all that these lengthy preparations and invocations are saying. So every traditional Solomonic magician or follower of the old grimoires or practitioner of the old grimoires is a climber up and down the tree of life. Finally, when you get down to that bottom of the tree of life, you command the powerful spirits. Without everything that happened before, that would not be possible. This is why the details are so important in these books, and why it's not really acceptable to just ignore the system completely. I've seen many people take the keys of Solomon and the Abramelin and other things like the other traditional grimoires and just take the symbols from it, the pentacles and the squares, and basically lay them on an altar, consecrate them, and use them to work a spell. Maybe it could work, but I don't really believe that that is what this magic is used for. And I don't believe there's any inherent strength in using those symbols over other symbols, because the whole idea of the symbol is that it helps you connect to all those zones that you need to make the manifestation of the spirit happen. So you have the pentacle of the highest realm, you have the pentacle of Solomon, of King Solomon himself, which unites those two, symbolizing your higher self, because he was someone who was able to make this magic work, just like you are attempting to. And finally and thirdly, that pentacle of the spirit, or the planet of the spirit, that brings it down to the earth realm. This is the key that links all of the grimoires based on manifesting spirits together. And finally, the last step to all of these systems, and especially the Key of Solomon, the license to depart. This is probably the most simple step, where the magician simply says the spirit can go home back to its realms. But the symbolism behind this is that you set everything back to how it was, but you've made those changes and you've imprinted your will on the earth. Because of this, the world that you live in is now changed. Everything is back to its rightful order, but you've imprinted your will on the world. And that completes the great act of magic, reaching your highest self and being able to transmute that heightened state of your being to effective results. And that's a moral that all of us can learn from in life, even if we don't practice magic. That's something that all of us can learn from in life as we just go about our days, trying to reach the highest sense of ourself, and from that create positive change. So this ends my video on the Key of Solomon. I hope, one, that you've grown to understand the Key of Solomon and its lengthy instructions more, and two, that you realize the importance of tradition and the steps that are written about in these magical books, and that you realize that they're not just there to sound mystical or be entertaining, but that they're there to actually convey some deep spiritual truth. And thirdly, finally, the third side to the triangle, I hope you're able to take from this something that can help benefit your life, whether you want to complete the operations within the Key of Solomon, or whether you just like learning about magic, or you're just interested in magic, or you just clicked on this video because you were interested in what the Key of Solomon was and what summoning powerful spirits was. I hope that you can take away something from it that helps you understand spirituality and the practice of this ancient magic and why it's still done. So thank you for clicking on the video. I know I've been absent from YouTube for a long time, but I have devoted to making more videos and better quality videos and really putting a lot of work into the videos that I put here, because it's really a blessing to my life to be able to have people who watch me on YouTube and who care about what I have to say. So thank you for caring about what I have to say. Thank you for clicking this video. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll be posting another one soon.